SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Double flea flicker action, he's got, and he is into the end zone for the touchdown.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 25 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Only 7 years since Joe Robbie was granted a franchise in the old AFL, Miami not only won the Super Bowl, but had gone an entire season undefeated, a feat no other NFL team in history has accomplished. It is unlikely ever to happen again.
David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go. This 3 o'clock hour on a day, the most successful football coach perhaps ever in pro football. With an incredible background, Don Shula passed away at the age of 90. At the age of 90, Nat Moore, one of those former wide receivers, will join us at 5 o'clock today to look back at the legacy of playing for Don Shula. Also today, Corey Campbell, the strength and conditioning coach at Baylor. He'll start us off at 3:15. Former Baylor wide receiver Terrance Williams at 4:30. Tim Brando of Fox Sports at 4. And all Melvin Bonner, former Baylor wide receiver, today at 3:30. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke, SicEm365 Radio. Let's start, obviously, Don Shula, and we'll get into that. But let's start with news over the weekend when it came to the Cowboys and Andy Dalton signing about $3 million a year. It can be higher than that. To me, this is an insurance policy. Paul, is it more than that?
No, I don't think it's more than that. I think it's silly to think that it would be. This is what the 90s Cowboys did when they won Super Bowl, Smokey. There were value backups on the market, and they had them. They had Steve Berline, they had Rodney Peete, they had Bernie Kosar, and they won Super Bowls with all those guys. Leaving out some other quarterbacks for a little bit. Look, they went and got Randall Cunningham. Remember, for a little while when at the end of Aikman's career, and they had Aikman and Randall Cunningham on the same roster. So, and this is what they used to do. And then lately, they've kind of, brought in whatever washed up dude off the street and guy who's not nearly as good as Andy Dalton. Now, if Andy Dalton has to start, I'm not enthused about the Super Bowl. But now you've got a very valuable insurance policy if Dak Prescott gets hurt.
Yeah, I don't think it's any sort of a threat to Dak Prescott whatsoever. I can see why it would be read that way because you do have a guy who's not just a guy. He's somebody who started in the league for a very long time, had moderate success, and the lack of success in Cincinnati, you can place all on Dalton's shoulders. He hadn't had A.J. Green around really for the last couple of years, and that organization is just a bit of a mess. I think in terms of every aspect of what you're looking for in a backup quarterback, like the best case scenario, a guy who can start games and you can be confident in if he has to start games, a guy who can not only start games but also win you some games with the help around him, then I think the Cowboys hit a home run as far as the quarterback position goes. And if Dak goes down, rather than going, oh gosh, Cooper Rush, is this who we're hitching our wagon to? I think people will be a lot more confident that it's a veteran like an Andy Dalton.
It is something that aren't you as good as who is your backup quarterback?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you ever want to use him, but it surely can derail whatever you might have going. In this case, the Cowboys and Andy Dalton make sense. It seems as if they're checking all the boxes. Still have to finally eventually play games, and that's down the road. But you could win some games with him rather than maybe win anything with Cooper Rush or anyone else besides him.
Well, I mean, look what the Cowboys have done over the last 2 or 3 weeks now. You've added CeeDee Lamb. You've addressed some of the other positions of need through the draft. You've now got a solidified backup quarterback. And, the Cooper Rush thing, I think, was more of a, I don't know, Paul can maybe chime in on this. He was a bit of a Jason Garrett, and Jason Garrett saw a lot in him. I'm not so sure about the new staff, and that's why we see Andy Dalton being brought in. So I think now you have a much more sure thing. No matter how good Cooper Rush may eventually be, you know how good Andy Dalton is already. And, there's still a couple of spots, in the secondary or what have you, that you have to be I don't even know if concerned is too strong of a word. It's that you have to be like, okay, I don't know just yet about these guys, but I mean, they have far less problems than most every other franchise in the NFL right now.
Well, and look, nobody can be loaded at every position.
Yeah.
You can't be 22 And that's what I think Cowboy fans envision is this roster full of 22 superstars, because you think of that's really how it was in the 70s or the 90s when it wasn't. I mean, they had, like, the 70s teams had a ton of Hall of Famers. The 90s teams did, but they didn't have 22 Hall of Famers. They didn't have 22 Pro Bowlers. They had good, solid players and be good and solid. And also, if you're going to pay Cooper Rush $2.3 million, or whatever, $2.2 million, and you can get Andy Dalton for a base salary of $3 million, I would say that $700,000 to $900,000 bump is worth it for Andy Dalton. You're not paying Andy Dalton $10 million to be your backup. You're paying him $3 million.
What does it say, though, that he couldn't find a starting job?
I think they're just all filled up. I mean, Jameis would have settled for a backup job, and I know he didn't have a great year. He did touchdown-wise. He did not interception-wise. But I think you see that with a lot of guys around the league who are veterans, and they're sort of caught in this wave of where a lot of positions are already established with either veterans or young guys, and then there's a bunch of teams who they've already drafted quarterbacks here recently, so they're not really in the need for that plug-and-play veteran quarterback. So I just think maybe in this cycle that instead of an Andy Dalton making sense in a place like Carolina when a new coach takes over and like, hey, let me get the veteran in here, they'd rather go Teddy Bridgewater and go with the younger guy who's maybe got more of has more of an upside potentially because of his age. So, it's curious to see some of those types didn't get the starting jobs they typically would, but I just think that's a result of a lot of good young quarterbacks right now taking up a lot of the spots, and then veterans who are proven taking up a bunch of the others, and then you had kind of a fight for that handful that was left over.
All right, now here's one thing David Hellman out there, because somebody was asking him about this possibility, which is silly, but David goes, let's put it this way. They might have added Dalton to protect themselves on the off chance that Dak sits out, but there's no way on earth they would look at Dak's people in the eye and say, you'd better sign him because we have Andy Dalton if you don't.
Yeah.
We'll throw the red rocket.
And that's not what Andy Dalton's trying to do. He's from Texas. He played at Katy High School. He had a great career in college, won an unbeaten team at TCU that beat Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl, and he's actually had a pretty decent NFL career. I saw somebody trying to compare it to Tony Romo. I would disagree with that, but he put up a lot of numbers. They just could not win playoff games in Cincinnati. Hey, one quick note. Steve Stutzman, former Baylor tight end back in the day in the 80s, his son just gave a commitment. Remember, we brought him up to Oklahoma. The tight end, he could play a lot of different positions, but Baylor was never a part of the finalists, but he did commit just now. His dad just sent me a text to Oklahoma.
It's very interesting. They offered a legacy last week, Terry Black's son, right? And he's a class of 2021 player, and they've offered legacies in the past. K'Lavon Chaisson from LSU was a Baylor lean commit even at one point, and then just that all fell apart. But they for some reason had really bad luck for the majority of their recruitments of legacy players for some reason. I don't know what about that, but yes, congratulations to the Stutzman family. OU's obviously a good choice for anybody wanting to go play college football. Kind of how the Baylor legacy thing doesn't typically work out.
Yeah, imagine where they would be if Chaisson had also been a part of that defense as well. By the way, Garrett Newsmeyer, who I think Baylor was interested in, of course, who wouldn't be, has just committed. He's from Flower Mound Marcus. He's committed to LSU. Son, of course, his dad is an NFL quarterbacks coach. So that was not a surprise. That's not a surprise either.
No, that was one of the guys that they did recruit early on. He was part of their first, kind of wave of looking at quarterbacks, but they got Kyron Drones last week. So their quarterback spot got filled up, and I think they probably had an idea that Nussmeier was leaning LSU, because I've seen that a couple of times in the last 2 or 3 weeks as far as predictions go. So that makes sense. And, LSU is going to have a heck of a class this year based off what they did last season.
No question about it.
And the recruiting class for 2022 will be the one for LSU that's probably just a ridiculous boon, because those guys are the juniors now that aren't already kind of leaning that way.
Yeah, and they were already recruiting really well, but hey, how about last week? We were talking about all these new 2021 commits that Baylor got. They picked up a couple more last week, and I mentioned Kyron Drones, the quarterback, being a part of this 2021 class, but I remember getting a tweet from one of our listeners. I think it was the day after the day of Kyron Drones' commitment, and she was asking about 2022 and saying, is it too early? And I was like, yeah, it's probably too early. Just to give you an idea, I went and took a look at the top 300 prospects for 2022, And out of that top 300, like 10 guys are committed because it's so early still. So I told her, I was like, oh, yeah, it's probably just a little too early. 2 days later, Baylor lands their first 2022 commit. So there you go. They're on the board for that class as well.
And that got some attention around the country because there's some lineage there. And from some that aren't even writers from around here. Of course, where's he from again?
Missouri. How often they dip into there.
Good. All right, so by the way, Dave Aranda is going to have like a Zoom presser on Wednesday around 30, so we'll capture that for you and obviously be able to have some of that up on Wednesday for our show. I do know, I can tell you this, Khalif Muhammad's going to join us, former Baylor receiver, tomorrow. He's now coaching at Tompkins High School in Katy. His son's going to the Air Force Academy. Wednesday, Andrew Billings, one of the great names in Baylor history. Also today, as I mentioned, we're about to come back. Let's take a break. Baylor's strength and conditioning coach, Corey Campbell, who might have one of the most intimidating pictures on his Twitter page of anybody in the country. All strength and conditioning coaches, of course, they are usually like specimens. Corey Campbell of Baylor, next on SicEm365 Radio. You must be able to change how you do business. Think outside the box to ensure that you service your customers. And at Waco Custom Marketplace, we've created our own drive-thru for your Monday, Wednesday, and Friday shopping needs, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you can still order and enjoy from our great butcher shop and bakery, including 2 pounds of 8-ounce salmon fillets for $24.05, 2 pounds of 4-ounce catfish fillets for $4.90, sliced ham or turkey, American cheese and smoked sausage, fresh chicken breast, 3.5-pound whole chickens, sliced bacon, boneless pork chops, 80/20 ground beef, pieces of sirloin steak or 4 pieces of ribeye steak from $19 to $35, marinated beef or chicken fajita meat plus a loaf of bread, fresh carrots and Idaho or red beef potatoes or white onions, pinto beans and white rice, flour tortillas. So the great product, customer service, and tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace with a drive-thru only Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one, commercial, farm and ranch, or residential. Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction with a team of 24 experienced agents who are excited about serving you. Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Waco, Texas, our city of remarkable growth and opportunity with an even brighter future ahead. What makes it all work is our people living, working, and growing together. And we're proud to be from here, helping and serving the community we call home. We are the First National Bank of Central Texas, taking great pride in being locally owned and operated. Come see us at any of our 5 convenient locations. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Hi, this is Jeremy Mullins, head football coach at Toller High School, and you're listening to SicEm365 Radio with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We are open to support our community through this crisis. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com. Call us at 833-MRI.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
The game, Duggan, throw to the end zone, incomplete. Baylor remains unbeaten. They come into Fort Worth and get the win.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on SicEm365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, located at the Imperial Drive exit off Loop 340 in Waco. Proud supporters of all Baylor Athletics.
All right, here we go. We start our first guest today, 3:15, joined by Corey Campbell, strength and conditioning coach at Coach Campbell 46 on Twitter. And I just got off the phone with the people on staff to give me some good stuff on Corey Campbell. Coach, thanks for your time. How frustrating is it to not have right now a chance to be with your players in the football program?
First and foremost, I appreciate you guys having me on here. It means a lot to me to get on with you guys, speak a little bit. But to answer your question, it's real frustrating. And I'm pretty sure, many strength and conditioning coaches around the country, football staffs, and just around the country are frustrated during this time. But although it is frustrating, we have to make the best of it. That's the message that we have to heed by, and that's also the message that we're voicing to our student athletes.
How do you, when they do come back, whenever that is, because, you've got a bunch of hardworking guys, but you don't get to monitor, so you don't want to overdo it when they come back. You got to know what kind of shape they're in. How do you get them back to where you need them to be for a season without all of this that you would have normally had?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it comes into play doing right now. As we do communicate with our guys, like one of the messages is, the preparation. Like when the opportunity does present itself for us to come back, like it's too late, to start that preparation right then. So that's definitely a message we try to hit home with them right now. But, when we do get the athletes back on campus, there are guidelines, best practice guidelines kind of set in place from our governing bodies from a strength and conditioning standpoint, the National Strength and Conditioning Association and the Collegiate Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association. So we'll take heed to that to ensure that we are systematically progressing our guys to be able to return. You can't do too much too soon because in the event that you do that and that, guys get injured and that inhibits from being able to go out there and play football, like you're defeating the whole purpose. So the health and safety of the guys is of the utmost importance in returning to play, and then we'll progress them as we should.
Corey, have you thought at all about what that's going to be like? And I know it's so uncertain right now, but just staying on the positive side of things, you thought at all what that's going to be like time everybody's ready to take the field and you guys are able to get back to it?
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Like, that's the sentiment that you get from the guys and talking to them every day. Right now, like they're chomping at the bit to get back, and so are we. So when we are able to do that, like that helps me. Their feeling about that helps me believe that right now they are putting in the preparation so that when we do get back and are able to train, we're able to practice and eventually able to play, in McLean Stadium, that they are putting in that work right now. And I mean, it's going to be an exciting time, and, I can't wait to get back to it. I know they can't, and I know, Baylor Nation can't wait for us to get back to it. So it'll be exciting.
So I had someone tell me that when the word came out that Dave Aranda was retaining you and you were staying at Baylor, Terrell Bernard, and a response from Terrell Bernard was how incredibly positive he was and how relieved he was, and so many others, that the players, and this is just not something said, that the players, the kids truly love Corey Campbell. How did that happen in such a short amount of time?
I'm thankful that they feel that way about me, but in such a time, I give my all in anything that I do, and working with these young men, it's like they're going to get everything that I have to give. They're going to get all of my love. They're going to get all of my passion. They're going to get all of my knowledge. My coach these guys and prepare these guys, and I pour into them. It's more than athletic performance to me. It's more than the football to me. Like I really, want to understand these young men at a different level, and I want to help them to achieve any goal that they set forth for themselves. So it's, I think that says, a lot about me in that relationship, building that I do have with the guys. I care about them. I genuinely care about them. I care about not only their ability to go perform on the field, but I care about their ability to go perform in the classroom. I care about their ability to be upstanding young men in society. So I pour all of myself into them in order to be able to in hopes of getting them to do that. So I think that says a lot into it. Like they understand that they're going to get my best effort every single day, and they're going to get the best I have to give every single day. And they give that to me in return. It's just a mutual respect and a mutual love and appreciation for it.
So have you, even though you have to do them alone, have you had fun doing these workout videos for people to see while we've been in quarantine?
So with that, what we put out for Swole Saturdays, that a lot of that is for Baylor Nation and the general public, just to really emphasize the importance of getting out, being active, and staying fit, and how that can benefit you not only physically but mentally. And it's a little bit different than the programming that we send to the players. Like their programming is a lot involved, per se, as it pertains to preparing them to be able to play football. So that side of it, it's fun to get everybody engaged. Within my profession, as an athletic performance coach. You want to preach fitness, and you want to preach the importance of it. So, allowing the public to kind of get a peek into what we do in terms of athletic performance at Baylor, I think that's good for the public to see.
Corey, as a performance coach, I think performance coaches all around the country have pretty much the same end goal and want to, help mold athletes to win championships and, get big and strong and fast and all these different things. But then they also have their own tweaks. And for you, what do you think will be the benchmarks, the hallmarks of a Corey Campbell trained athlete, over this time at Baylor when you get your hands in there and you get to sink your teeth in and things return to whatever they are? What will be the benchmarks in your mind of somebody who's been trained by Corey Campbell?
Yeah, so I think about the brand of our program, and it might sound like you guys have heard it before. Sure, Baylor Nation has heard it before, but an individual training, I'm not gonna take full credit for this. As I am, the face of the athletic performance department. Like, I just want to give a huge shout out to my staff, John Griffin, Adam Davis, Rick Loud, Brian Ellis. When you look at an athlete, they're not just trained by me. They're trained by, the collective group of all of us. But, at the end of it, an athlete in the Baylor Athletic Performance Program for football, like, they're going to be tough, they're going to be hardworking, and they're going to be competitive. Like, that is the culture of this program. We preach that to them every day. We tell them that they are that. We put them in positions and in situations where we can bring those qualities out of them right now during training, so that when we get, the opportunity to play in a game in McLean, to play in a game in various other opponent stadiums on Saturdays, that they go out knowing that they've been trained and prepared to be tough, hardworking, competitive, and then they go out and they do that. And they show their labor. So that's what you're going to get out of an athlete that's trained by myself and they're going to be tough, they're going to be hardworking, they're going to be the most competitive athletes in the country.
Corey Campbell is the Director of Athletic Performance at Baylor. He's with us on SicEm365 Radio. So the Instagram takeover, I've heard this is legendary with you. Is that correct?
I don't know about legendary. I tried to do my best. So how much did you bench and squat? You apparently put on a show. So on Swole Saturday, on that Instagram takeover, I did 405 for 2 reps on the bench. But if you're asking what I've done in the past, from a bench perspective, the most I've hit 435 and squat 650.
Same here, Corey. Same here.
Yeah.
I like it.
Do you know now? Paul can bench a lot of weight, but if I tried to even if I had 3 guys on either side of barbells and they lifted it up over my head and my arms were in the air, as soon as they let go, my body would be cut in half.
Yeah, just bar drop right back down.
Like poof, I would be 2 of me. And it's not all about that, though. You mentioned about how, like, I've always wanted to know about strength and conditioning. How far do you know how to take every single player that everybody maybe wired differently. How do you know when it's like, okay, for this guy, we're right on the edge, or for this guy? Is that hard to kind of sometimes juggle?
Yeah, so with respect to how we do it, we take a systematic approach to the development of each athlete that we work with. Coming in the door, I need you to be where I'm trying to take you year 3. So looking at that, it's a hierarchy of development. Walking in, we're going to focus on qualities such as relative strength and work capacity. Then, now we're going to try to add mass to that. And then we're going to once you're big enough, once you display the qualities that we've tried to train up to that point, then we're going to try to add to your max strength, and then we're going to focus on speed and power, and then it'll get to a certain point where you've been within our program a while, you matriculated throughout it, and we can take a little bit more of an individual approach to your programming. But that's how we look at it. We look at it from a holistic point of view. We want to develop you to be able to perform at a high level for the duration of your playing career. That may not end at the end of college. You may go on to have a lengthy professional career. That's my hopes for a lot of these individuals. So with respect to our approach in training, it varies. It does depend on the qualities that we see staff that we need to address within your athletic development. And then from there, we place you in these groups so that we can enhance those qualities.
Corey, you got promoted to the head of strength and conditioning, head of athletic performance after Dave Aranda took over. Obviously got to spend the last 3 years there with Matt Rule in charge, and not at all a comparison of the staffs, but just did you have any type of a previous relationship at all with Dave Aranda, having played in the SEC, having experiences there, and just what have been kind of your impressions for those who don't get to be around the staff or haven't been around the staff, just your impressions of what he's been like since he's taken over the job?
Yeah, so prior to Coach Aranda coming to Baylor, we didn't have any previous interaction, but you looked at his work. You looked at the program that he had a part in building and where he took those programs, and in bringing his expertise to, like you said, I was here under Coach Rule. Coach Rule did an amazing job, and Coach Aranda's coming in, to continue, not only to continue that, but to also take the next step with that. So, again, his career speaks for itself, and Coach Aranda and the staff that he's been able to put together here at Baylor, it's amazing. And I'm looking forward to seeing, the football that we're able to play, whether that, no one knows when that's going to be. But I do know, he put together a staff of great teachers, a staff of great coaches. He's a great teacher, a great coach, a great role model in and of himself. So, again, putting together such a great staff from a football perspective, putting together such a great staff from, a preparing champions for life perspective, it's going to be very, very exciting to see where Coach Aranda and the staff takes this program.
You walked on at Georgia. You could have gone a lot of different places, but that's what you did, and then you ended up being a starter for, a couple of years as a fullback. Does that allow you to relate to those who get overlooked coming out of high school, or those who transfer in who maybe were at a junior college that weren't highly recruited or for whatever reason weren't right at Baylor or Division I football? Will that help you a little bit?
Yeah, so I didn't start at fullback. I appreciate that. I did have an opportunity to walk on and letter 3 years and make a name for myself. So, but yeah, I look at that, and me having done that, I understand, what it takes. I understand the level of work that you have to put in, the chip that comes on your shoulder when people did count you out. You have somewhat something to prove. And coming in with that chip on your shoulder, just understanding, the work that you have to put in to get noticed. That's what I tell a lot of guys, when you come in, you want to get noticed, and you want to get noticed for the right reason. So how do you do that? You put in the extra work. When we're talking about hard work, it's not what we ask you to do. That's what's expected of you. It's what more do you do outside of that. You put in that time, you put in that effort. You have to you do so much, more from that standpoint of getting that opportunity to show the coaches that you can contribute to this team. So when I think about, walk-ons coming and being a part of the program, when I think about, individuals coming from junior colleges or other institutions and coming in and play at Baylor, like, that's what I tell them. What can you do to get noticed? How are you going to stand out? You have to come in with a chip on your shoulder, and you have to work your mind off every single day. And then when you do get the opportunity, you got to make the most of it.
Corey, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. It's been great to watch the response, and that a coach tells me that they love Corey Campbell, that they're a huge fan of yours, and that the players' reaction, I would think, and this is not your words, but guys, Paul, and that Corey Campbell and Joey McGuire were the two biggest, because they could have been different options.
Yeah, Sean Bell, David Wetzel, all the guys who stayed, I think, were huge.
But no question about it. Corey, thanks for your time, and we'll see you soon, hopefully at a practice field down the road.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate your time as well, and I pray that your families are safe and healthy during this time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's Corey Campbell, Director of Athletic Performance at Baylor. This is SicEm365 Radio, and Melvin Bonner, former Baylor wide receiver, is next.
Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac has celebrated over 21 years of serving Waco and Central Texas, and they just continue on into the 22nd anniversary here in the next few months. Richard Carr employees are the people you can count on to get you in a car or truck safely and on your terms. They disinfect the showroom daily. They closely monitor employee health. Hands are washed and disinfected with great frequency, and the Richard Carr sales staff will bring a car to you for a test drive, and they can also complete financing online. Right now, all 22 Cores and Enclaves are in stock for 0%, 84 months for qualified buyers, plus Richard Carr anniversary savings. They also have the 2020 GMC line of Sierras and Acadias, Terrains, and Canyons, all 0% for 84 months for qualified buyers. Richard Carr anniversary savings. They're your local family dealer and proud Baylor Bear alumni, and they want the chance to earn your business. Great prices, free oil changes with a new purchase, and in-town priority warranty service all comes with your purchase at Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
This is Waco. This is Boozer's Jewelers. When locals want luxurious jewelry and at a competitive price, they come here. This is Brad Boozer. He's the owner of Boozer's Jewelers. Boozer's is the premier wedding ring store. They specialize in loose diamonds and wedding rings. At Boozer's, they have 7 jewelry counters dedicated to wedding rings and diamonds. They also specialize in heirloom jewelry, custom jewelry, watches, and much, much more. So what are you waiting for? Stop on in today and discover why the locals trust Boozer's for their jewelry.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, with Crown Royal Peach in stock right now and Balcones Whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby French oak, rye, and brimstone. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support our community through crisis. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at IdealMRI.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Texas Board Certified Personal Injury Trial Lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recut. Call for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at TexasTrialLawyer.com, Principal Office in Houston, Texas.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. Got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than a long distance meeting. It'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
Comprehensive
Glory and attic.
We're back on SicEm365 Radio. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke. I'm David Smoke. Deontay Epps is running as well, part of the mothership as well, as we are now joined by former Baylor wide receiver Melvin Bonner. Hempstead, Texas, where he was born, played at Van Vleck and played with Baylor and also in the NFL. Melvin, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. How much, even if it's 10 or 20, 30 years later, is it nice sometimes for former players to kind of go back and reminisce about their career?
Good. Reminiscing the memories, and there's so many that I just can't get enough of it.
You played for Coach Taft, kind of end of his run there, and obviously he left for different reasons. You know, he had a lot of left in him, but there were things going on there with no weights and all the things at the Southwest Conference. What was that like, though, playing for him in those last couple of really good years he had?
It was real special seeing it was his last couple of years. He taught all of us a lot. I knew. That's when I found out what real teamwork is, and through his faith, made our faith even greater and made us play sometimes even beyond our abilities.
You averaged, I believe it was senior year, like 20 yards per catch. In fact, well over 21 yards a catch. J.J. Joe told me it was because every pass he threw to you was perfect.
Well, you know what? If JJ said that, well, let's agree. You never go against your quarterback.
No, if you're receivers do it all the time, right? It seems like you notice a lot of these receivers have become kind of like high maintenance and divas, and because they want the ball more. Is that correct?
Well, we played in the VR offense, and when you play in the VR offense as a receiver, you really just another tackle. You just out there on the island by yourself. So what I did was I became a better blocker, and when we did throw the ball, we was like, we might well throw for scores. If we're gonna throw the ball, let's just throw it up and let Melvin go get it, and that's what we did.
How important was it, Melvin, to end Grant Taft's career with a win? You beat Arizona, I think, in a bowl game in the Sun Bowl. How important was that for the program and for also the players who loved him?
It was very important, especially because they came in, they talked a bunch of trash. Like they knew just because I think they had lost to Miami 7-6, so they thought it was it was going to be just a walk in the park to play. I forgot that the game was played between the 1 and the 10, the 100 yards. So they forgot they had to show up and play the
game. When you had a team like that disrespected you guys, what was Coach's message on that? Because he is he's not someone he's not bombastic like some other coaches are. He's very measured and thoughtful when it comes to things.
Yeah, he knew what type of team he had. So what he did was he just told us, listen to him, feed off of it, and go do what y'all do. He already knew he was going to win.
I had somebody, Edmund Bear, on the Willis law firm chat room. Melvin sat behind my wife in class. She said he had to push her seat forward because your legs were so long. Is it?
Yeah, my nickname was Slim, in my hometown. Mm-hmm. And then another nickname was Spaghetti because my legs were so long.
Spaghetti.
And tell his wife I apologize.
I think they're fine. You were born, I guess, you were born in Hempstead, but you played at Van Vleck, correct?
Yes, but I'd be remiss if I wouldn't say that I'm from Cedar Lake, Texas.
Okay.
I played at Van Vleck. It was 20 miles away from where I actually live. And we're a real proud little community. So I'm from Cedar Lake, Texas.
Okay. Van Vleck had Eric Martin at one point. I guess that would have been before you. Did Eric Martin have any kind of instrumental, motivation for you to kind of become like us at LSU and eventually in the NFL?
Yeah, we had a lot of players come through Van Vleck, and he was probably the biggest name when I was growing up. And my favorite nickname, he gave it to me. He came home one time and practicing track, and he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna beat all y'all in there." So we was like going toe to toe. And see, we also had Charles Austin, who won the Olympic high jump in 1996, and we was back and forth high jump, and I ended up winning. And he was like, "Man, this dude is smooth." And from then on, that's what people used to call me, Smooth too. I had a lot of nicknames.
Smooth is better than Spaghetti. Would you agree?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Hey, Melvin, when you were talking about the way that receivers played, in that veer offense, and that you were more of an additional blocker, although you had some games where you caught the ball a lot more. What do you think when you see some of these offenses, at Baylor especially, with all the wide receivers they've had come through? What do you think when you see some of these high offenses and receivers racking up, 10 catches a game and huge yardage? Does it make you wish you had maybe an opportunity to play in this era? How do you think you would have fared?
No, not really, because what I did, and what we did in the veer, it's comparable to what's going on now. I mean, I had fun playing the veer. I think one year I led our team in pancake blocks, and wow. that was real special to me. Sometimes I would just take the cornerback and just drive him to his own bench, and then throw him down and just start laughing and walk back to the huddle. I took pride in blocking.
For every long run or big play, there has to be a receiver making a block downfield.
Yes, yeah, and I prided myself on that. I really did.
Do you did that help when the NFL looked at you? Obviously, you had the speed. One year, you actually almost averaged 25 yards per catch your junior year. Was that brought up much when you were drafted into the NFL about not just to do with your hands and speed, but also what you did as far as your physicality?
Well, yeah, when I first got to camp in Denver, that was one of the things Coach Wade Phillips said. He was like, "We ain't got to worry about you blocking. We know you can do that. Now we can see if you can do this route tree." Because they said all I did was run in a straight line for touchdown.
So even back then, Baylor wide receivers on occasion had to deal with the perception about the route tree. 24.6 yards per catch in your junior year. It's like almost every time you caught the ball, it's quarter of a football field.
Well, yeah, Coach Reedy said, when he first got there, he was like, and these are his words, "I'm not throwing for first downs, I'm throwing for touchdowns." Yeah. Because if it was up to him, he would run the ball every play. But he said, if I have to throw it, I'm throwing it for touchdown. And he would be like, "Melvin, that's why you here right now. That's what we need you to do." And for one before my senior year, no, I think it was my junior year, he made me play every offensive play in spring practice to get me ready for what was going to be happening during that year.
I was looking at the roster. Listen to some of these. The running backs, Robert Strait, of course, who was a huge recruit out of Cuero. David Mims, Dangerfield. We had him on, in fact, last week. Kendrick Bell was a great quarterback in high school at Chapel Hill, won a state championship. And we had John Henry on recently, the gentle giant, John Henry from Lorena, Texas. I mean, you guys had, of course, when you run the veer, that's what you got to have. You got to have a bunch of guys who can run it, right?
And they all was a breakaway threat. So you and like I pride myself on blocking. If you ask them a lot of those runs they had, ask them who was the last block that got them into the end zone, and they're gonna say it was me.
You were inducted. You were inducted into the Baylor Athletic Hall of Fame it's been 2007. What did that mean to you?
First of all, they had to find me to tell me. People was calling me, and I was like, what I got all these missed calls for? So when I called my mom was like, hey, Baylor trying to get in touch with you. I was like, what Baylor need me? I don't owe them no money or nothing. What they need me for? I turned in my book. I know they didn't call me by no books or whatever. So she was like, I don't know. So when I finally got a call from a newspaper, it was like, hey, you've been inducted into the Baylor Hall of Fame. And I was like, really? Because I never thought about that, that anything on my mind. I was like, oh. So then I tell my son, he was like, you're not in no Hall of Fame, Dad. I say, that's what they telling me. Let's go on this trip and see. Let's see if it's true. So it ended up being true. I had a great time. Very honored to be listed in those great players, Santana Dotson, Robert Blackman, James Francis, people like that, and it's just an honor just to be in that class with them.
Yeah, that was a great class. David Wesley, Kim Mulkey, I believe, was a part of that class as well. Among.
Oh yeah.
Now, you are now working with children, young kids that are in CPS in custody, or CPS custody. How did that come about, and what does that mean to be able to try to help young people?
Well, it started off, I couldn't play football anymore because I sustained another injury, a rupture of my Achilles. Couldn't really get the motion back in my ankle. So, for a while I was down and out. And my sister said, well, won't you come just work with these kids with me? And that was 23 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since. And it's like one of those things where they say, if you're doing something you love, you never work a day in your life. So, and I've been doing it for 23 years.
How do some of those young people look up to you? Because they have had, obviously, sometimes a very difficult life.
Well, the thing is, what I do, I never tell them anything about my football career, but it always gets back to them. I never have to say anything. So when and it's usually another kid that tell them. So, and then once they asked me, I was like, yeah, I played for Baylor, Denver, this and that, and then I have to prove it to them. And I'm like, well, I ain't gonna prove it to you. Then the technology is so advanced that they'll just can look it up and they'll say, well, you did play. I was like, well, yeah, I played a little bit, but you don't act like a professional football player. I said, well, okay, let's get this. Let's get this opportunity to just build on and learn from it. I teach them all type of sports, basketball, football, track. I teach them how to be nice, polite, and respectable, and so on and so forth. And if they see it coming from somebody who's done the things I've done, I think it means more, and it's easier for them to transition into that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have to believe in those young guys? You gotta believe in them, because a lot of people maybe have not. Is that something? Right. Is that sometimes you got to be the man that wants to help them out, but also you have to be careful because sometimes kids can fool you?
Oh yeah. You can't give up on them. And my thing is, even with those kids, who come into our situation and they think that they have to con to survive. Well, what I do is tell them, the con is not going to get you anywhere, but through faith and hard work, whatever you want in life, you can get it, but you have to want to be able to do it the right way,
Mm-hmm.
And lately, every now and then I'll get a kid from 10, 15, 20 years ago, and they'll be like, man, what you said to me, what you taught me, I say it and teach my kids the same thing now. And that's a blessing to me.
I would think that when you see someone who has struggled and then a few years down the road they've made, although it's always a daily issue, what's that feeling for you inside your heart?
That what I'm doing, it's a blessing. What I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I said, through my faith and through hard work, which is not hard. It's easy to me, and trying to get these kids on the right path. Some do, some don't. But the ones that do, like I say, when they come back 10, 15 years later and appreciate, what I did or what we do, it's a blessing. It's a good feeling.
Melvin Bonner, CPS custody, working with young kids, a great receiver at Baylor, averaged 21.57 yards per catch in the Veer, and now has been our guest on SicEm365 Radio. I just had somebody tell me on the Willis chat room, is Robert Blackman now the AD football coach at your alma mater, Van Vleck?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah.
How about that, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. He's the reason why I came to Baylor. I went to Baylor.
Robert Blackman, huh?
Yeah. I had to follow familiarity.
Oh, yeah. I can understand that. Hey, thanks a lot, Melvin. We appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Melvin Bonner, former Baylor wide receiver, a part of the Athletic Hall of Fame at Baylor. And, I had a conversation, a couple of back and forth for about 15 or 20 minutes with Walter Abercrombie about some of the players that are inducted and how much they mean. He said for Melvin, it meant the world, and we appreciate his time. When we come back, a couple of notes. Again, Don Shula passed away today, the great coach of the Dolphins and Colts. He was 90. Nat Moore, former Dolphins receiver, will join us at 5, but Tim Brando's coming up around the corner, and former Baylor and Cowboys receiver Terrance Williams. Very interested to hear and how he's been doing. This is SicEm365 Radio. I had a tomahawk ribeye, bone-in ribeye on Saturday night. It was huge. I mean, it was as big a piece of meat as I've ever seen that I've cooked, and I got that from Brian Bauer, and I had it custom made for me at Waco Custom Marketplace. Now, their drive-thru is available Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. They will still take customized orders. If you can call them usually anytime after about 10, you can go online and they'll do whatever they possibly can right now. But the bottom line is their drive-thru's available for what you need when it comes to beef and poultry, pork and seafood, and the bakery. So they have the butcher shop and the bakery, and Waco Custom Marketplace open Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The Bauer family, when a lot of things went down 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, they made sure, okay, wait a minute, we have customers that want our product. Let's just develop. Let's just find a way to do drive-through business, and that's done. They were also one of the first businesses to contact us back in the mid or March when things changed with Paul and Craig and me. Waco Custom Market loyalty means a lot. Product is fantastic, and the drive-thru open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
We are facing some unique challenges at this time. We want to do our part to support not only our community, but our medical providers who are really overtasked right now. Governor Greg Abbott has required dental offices to postpone all elective dental procedures, but still be available for dental emergencies. And dental emergencies are those that are defined as something that would make somebody consider going to the emergency room for treatment. We're going to see you at our office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to noon, and we will waive all fees. We're doing this to support the community and support the medical system. This will allow the overtasked medical community to focus on the truly needy at this time. In the midst of what seems to be so much gloomy news, we want to send a positive signal of our faith in our community and in each other. We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're 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 all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together. Thank you and God bless.
Hi, this is Tyler Holcomb, Athletic Director and Head Football Coach at Bishop Louis Riker, and you're listening to SicEm365 Radio with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Our communities are facing unprecedented times. At Boozer's Jewelers, we care about you and your family. If you're like me, your home has unwanted or unused jewelry lying around. They can have value, and that means we can turn that jewelry into instant cash. This is a great way to get the most value from your unwanted jewelry. At Boozer's Jewelers, we buy all kinds of unused jewelry. So give us a call and let us give you peace of mind and cash for your unwanted or unused jewelry.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Trust the doctors that Baylor trusts. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like these, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illness and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI. And please, remember to follow CDC guidelines and practice social distancing. Stay home, except for the essentials, and be safe. Together, we'll get through this.
Do you love Friday Night Lights? Would you like to have a bigger role than just watching the action to ensure the games are played fairly and safely? The Waco Football Chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO, can make that happen. The 2020 Texas high school football season is right around the corner, and we need you to be a part of it. There's a shortage of officials across the state in all sports, and you can help. If you love the game and want to be a part of the solution, you can help our local student athletes continue to participate in games they love. Never officiated before? Don't worry. Waco Football Chapter can help and prepare you to make the right call. And right now, Introduction to Football Officiating class is accepting registrations. Make your first grade call today by looking us up and contacting us on Facebook at Waco Football Chapter or at our website, wacofootballchapter.com. Find out more about the Waco Football Chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO. Go to wacofootballchapter.com.
This is SicEm365 Radio. The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store. The Wedding Ring Store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house. Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go. Week number 5. Craig, episode
21
of the launch of SicEm365 Radio. Thanks to Melvin Bonner. Thanks to Baylor's Athletic Performance Director in Corey Campbell. And thanks to our guest right now, Fox Sports broadcaster Tim Brando joins us on SicEm365 Radio. Tim, I shared our story with you. This is an interesting time in the business of television and radio, isn't it?
You can say that again. Yeah. And it's a time when I'm normally not working anyway. You know, I'm done with my football and basketball season. I called the last half of Division I basketball at the Big East tournament in New York before we were told that's it. And the pandemic was in full throttle at that particular point. So I only had one more day of broadcasting to do. But it has been a very unique 6, 7. I think we're in week 7 as we speak. And I think more than anything else, just the unknown of where we are and what's happening next has overtaken all of us to a great extent. And for those of us that try, I think to remain upbeat, it's very difficult because it's almost as if now, as we get closer to Election Day, it's almost as if you're ultra positive, you're going to be slammed by people, and if you're ultra negative, you're going to be slammed by people. And it's almost as if political lines have been drawn with your outlook on life. It's crazy, but that's the world we live in to some extent. You know, I do feel better about things now than I did this time a month ago. But I'm seeing some things that I didn't see a month ago. I'm beginning to see now, which is really unfortunate, and that is some civil unrest, which is, I guess, to be expected. But at the same time, it's really unfortunate because I think we're really getting close to having whatever our new stage of normal is going to be. It's not going to be the same, but I think we're getting closer to some form of normalcy. And I think we need to really be careful so that we can get to that and ultimately have a college football season come the fall. I think a lot of people will maybe be in a better, brighter mood when we actually see athletic events of some kind begin to take place.
Tim, your best guess, do we start on time? And if we don't, do they play a full 12 games or they shorten it up to keep it within the normal time frame?
I've talked to a lot of athletic directors, a lot of commissioners, more them than coaches. Although I have talked to a few coaches too. The coaches are well down the rung as it relates to, you know, the decision-making process. Although they will all tell you that they need 6 to 8 weeks to get their guys prepared, and I think that's important. The coaches have to have their guys, you know, physically and mentally prepared to play when, in fact. And if, in fact, we do play, I love that the leadership from the commissioners and from the ADs. It seems that they're in constant conversation, daily teleconferences with one another, and sharing a lot of information with one another. The problem is that, for the most part, these conversations, teleconferences or whatnot, are going on just in their particular region or their conference, if you will. Not a lot of national conversation, which leads me to believe that because we don't have a so-called czar for college football, which you guys know undoubtedly that I'm a proponent of, it's like football, college football is going to be like politics. It's all local. Decisions are going to be made that resonate and will be well received in the Midwest and the Heartland and the Rust Belt and I think the Deep South. And then along the coastlines, it may be different. On the east and western borders of our country, it could be big time different. So, that's what I'm seeing and hearing. My belief is that, and I've been told by enough of the people involved that it's business as usual in terms of start date right now. And I don't think you'll see any shift in that thinking until maybe this time a month from now, because then we'll be creeping up on that 6 to 8 weeks. We'll be inside the 8 weeks and creeping up on 6 weeks for preparation for coaches to get their guys ready to go the last weekend in August. And so my thoughts are we'll play a full season. I don't know that August 29th date for week 0 is going to pan out. I think there's a very good chance that we'll be a month late. And by the way, I've got no problem with college football being moved back 4 weeks. In fact, I think the sport ends way too soon. I think the college football season ends way too soon. So if we moved it back 4 weeks, then everybody could play, and that would include the non-conference games, which I think are very important to the quality of play within the conference. It's vital to those group of 5 schools. In some cases, it represents, a fourth or a fifth of their annual athletic budget to get those games in. So their very existence may depend on getting those games in. The payout won't be as large as it has been in the past, but they need those games to be played. But that's what I see. The talk of the spring is, I think, it's there. The discussions have been done relative to playing in the spring, but I don't think anybody wants to go there, and I don't think anybody believes that we will go there.
As you've been saying, Tim, it's obviously a strange time. It's an even stranger time when you're a coach that's in a transition phase like Dave Aranda is here at Baylor, where he did not have the opportunity for spring ball and really hasn't been able to be around his players all that much as a new coach. But we've heard a lot of really good things from a lot of different people. You've been around that Louisiana area for a long time. You've covered the SEC for a long time. What are your impressions of Dave Aranda and the kind of man Baylor now has leading their program?
Well, I've gotten to see not only what he's done at LSU, because I'm a native Louisianian, but I also the remnants of what he left at Wisconsin. I've been covering in the Big Ten, which is pretty stout. You know, his defense was incredible there. He was able to put together, from a defensive standpoint, a similar approach with better athletes, I think, at LSU. Last year, they had to make an adjustment because their offense was scoring so quick that their defense was out on the field, for more reps. It took them probably the first half of the year to begin to understand the nuance of this highly explosive offense that LSU suddenly had. And right about the one was throwing dirt on LSU's defense because of the yards they were giving up. All of a sudden, it clicked in. If you go back and look at the SEC championship game against Georgia, certainly the Oklahoma win and the national title game, their defense acquitted themselves beautifully, and they had to make major adjustments because they weren't accustomed to having to be on the field that much, for that many plays. And it's probably going to help Dave as much as anything going into the Big 12 because, man, oh man, hour to help facilitate that. You mentioned as a disc jockey, I was my actual first on-air job was calling high school football games with my dad in Monroe, Louisiana at age 14.
Wow.
I quit the football team in middle school in the 9th grade to call Neville High School football, which was a juggernaut program in Monroe. They had won a lot of state titles. My dad was involved in ownership of a hotel in Monroe, and a bunch of people knew him as a pioneer of TV in Shreveport. And they needed a broadcaster, so they asked him to do it. And he said he would do it if only they'd allow him to choose his second banana, his color analyst, not knowing it would be his 14-year-old son. And that's where it all began. And I then later moved over my junior and senior years of high school. Now, I played basketball and baseball, but I didn't play football again after the 8th grade to do high school football. I went over, you'll remember these places, KLUE radio in Longview, KMHT,
oh, yeah.
K-Her, the Big K Media up in the Texas in the northeast corner, only about an hour's drive from Shreveport.
Texarkana, yeah.
I was doing Pine Tree Pirate high school football.
Oh yeah,
in 1973 and 74, my junior and senior year at Fair Park in Shreveport. So I was on the air doing high school football before I ever got the rock jock job. But the rock jock job was pretty cool. That was in my summer of my senior year of high school going to college. I'd won a lot of speech and debate tournaments and got a scholarship to Northeast Louisiana University, now ULM. And the great part of that was in the summer because I'd won television announcing for my junior and senior years of high school. I'd gotten a lot of publicity at home, and I was hired to work at the NBC affiliate as the booth announcer, KTAL-TV, Texarkana, Shreveport. And I did that during the week, and on weekends I did the sports. And I also was spinning records at the FM rocker K-Rock, which was the FM of KWKH, the 50,000-watt flamethrower, and the home of at one time the Louisiana Hayride. So I was doing centenary games with Jim Hawthorne, who later did LSU when I was 20. So
yeah.
I mean, I not only did I think it come true, it was something that I felt it was a relief more than a dream come true by the time it happened, because I had been on the air for 15 years when I was hired at ESPN in 1985 to do my first game, and I was 29. So think about it. You're 29 years old and you've got 15 years experience. That's not many people can say that. So I was really fortunate. But I tell people all the time, yes, I took advantage of the opportunities that I had through my father's pioneering days of radio and television. But when the red light came on, I knew that I could get it done, and I did. And the goal was to be on national TV before I was 30, and we were able to pull it off.
What were you, Craig, in high school when you did sidelines? First time you did sidelines, were you a senior?
Yeah, I think I was senior.
Yeah, it was crazy. That's an interesting.
Start them young.
Yeah,
you've got to start young and throw yourself in there.
Yeah.
You know, just and that's what he wanted to do with me. The notion was, hey, there's nothing like live reps. And he would do the first half, and I would do the color. He'd let me get a little bit comfortable, and then the second half I would take over. But I think probably after that first year, and when I came over into East Texas to do the games on KLUE Kher for Pine Tree, I didn't have my dad by my side. It was me and another guy, and I controlled the show. You know, and it's one thing to have a mic. Another thing to be the first guy that is talking and the last guy that's talking. And oh, by the way, if the telephone system's not working, you're having to sweat it out, you know, whether you're going to get on the air or not. Those were incredible days as I look back on it. And a lot of stories I could tell, no question about that.
I feel like a late bloomer. I didn't start until I was 25, so 15 years in. I let my golden years wash past me, Tim.
Tim, one of the questions.
Well, listen, nobody asks, you know, hey, it's all about the finish line. It's not about where you start. It's about, you know, where you finish. And there are amazing stories of guys that were late bloomers and had incredible careers. There are different ways of getting it done. For me, there was this or paint white lines down the streets of my hometown. I had no other skill set. I was prepared for nothing else. And if this hadn't worked out, God only knows what might have happened.
You had a tweet today I saw where you mentioned Don Shula, who passed away. We're going to have Nat Moore on the show in about 45 minutes, former Dolphins wide receiver. Yeah. You met him. You met Shula. Is that right, at Saints training camp in Key Biscayne?
Yeah, I was covering the Saints, was working at WGSO in New Orleans, doing a nightly talk show in the 1981-82 seasons. Archie Manning was there, and then Kenny Stabler came in. Bum Phillips had just taken over as head coach, and the Saints and the Dolphins were just a few miles apart, Key Biscayne and Vero Beach, and they would always get together for a week and have scrimmages. Miami would come down to Vero for the Saints, and then the Saints would go over to Key Biscayne. Completely different atmospheres. The Saints were at Dodgertown, which was just immaculate, magnificent setting. I remember seeing old video of spring training for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and, you know, I'm staying in a room that's got Sandy Koufax's picture on it, you know, and I'm 25, 26 years old at the time in 81, 82, and you know, those were great Dolphins teams. One, the 82 team had David Woodley that went on to the Super Bowl, lost to the Redskins. Woodley was a Byrd High School graduate, LSU quarterback with Steve Ensminger, by the way, in 1979. When I was working in Baton Rouge, those two guys shared the quarterback position. Woodley at the time was the youngest quarterback to take a team to the Super Bowl. That Super Bowl was, I think, played in 83, but it was the 82 season. Getting to meet him as a young reporter and do a one-on-one with a cassette recorder with Don Shula was, you know, it was right up there with interviewing Bear Bryant in 1979. You know, you don't forget those moments. And he was always so cordial, businesslike, but cordial. And no matter whether you were a national broadcaster, someone that had a tremendous experience, or you were a cub reporter that was just out of the embryo, you know, and starting his career, he treated you with great respect. And I remember through the years, as I moved up the ladder and I was at different events, I once went in with the Braves to do a Marlins game, and we were staying in Miami, not far from the football stadium, which is where the baseball was also played. And the hotel had a Shula's restaurant in it, the great steak restaurant that he got involved in, the chain Shula's Steakhouse. And he was there. And, it's mid-'90s. By this time, I'm working at Turner, but I've been on ESPN for about 8 or 9 years. He comes walking up to my wife, myself, and our young family with us at the time. And, Tim, it's so great to have you. How are you? Are you enjoying your stay? I mean, I couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. A, that he remembered me. B, that he would be so kind as to walk up on his own. He just happened to be there that night. And it was a thrill, absolute thrill. Very businesslike and certainly a tough coach in so many ways. I mentioned the Saints almost. It was like Club Med at their location. Key Biscayne was like dirty, trashy. It was like it really felt like a really bad training camp. I remember comparing notes with the Dolphins reporters, and they were like, "Oh, you guys have no idea. This is awful," and it was. And he wanted it that way, And Bum was a little bit different in his approach. They were at two-a-days. Bum saw a cloud, and he'd say, let's just stay in today. I think the Gatlin brothers are coming. They're going to sing later tonight.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Take this afternoon off.
That's great.
No wonder they were.
Both coaches were great. Don't get me wrong, but they had different ways of going about it.
Tim, you mentioned at the start when we asked you about college football, whenever it might start. Can you imagine the morale? I know it's all about people staying safe and all of that, and everyone, like you mentioned, it's almost split if you're one way or the other. If you're too so-called fearless, or if you're too maybe hibernated, whatever the word is. Can you imagine the morale, though, especially in the South, without college football for too long?
Oh, yeah. No, they're going to play in the South. Rest assured. They're going to play in the South. There would be too much to lose, and I can't even imagine some of the machinations of those if we didn't have it in this part of the country. But like so many other things in our lives, I think one of the things we have to come to terms with are choices, the choices that we make. And that's one of the things I'm beginning to notice now. There are some examples of recklessness out there. And people do need to be more aware of the choices they make relative to the health of their own. By example, I love to play golf. I live on a golf course, and I haven't played. I'm going to hopefully play for the first time tomorrow. The reason I haven't played is because most of the guys I play with are my age or older. The kind of guys where you hit the ball and immediately the first thing out of their mouths is, "Do you see it?"
Yeah.
Yep. So no question there's some pre-existing issues with some of the guys that I might play golf with. And I was just coming back from New York, which was the absolute hotbed, the epicenter of the CD19. So that, plus I have a 4-month-old granddaughter and 2.5-year-old grandson that are just around the corner. And I want to see them. I want to be able to hug them, and I wasn't going to be able to do that if I were out playing golf with guys. So, I've purposely not played, and this is the longest stretch that I've not played, because I just didn't want to, run the risk of making a poor choice. Now, I'm going to get out there this week, and I think I can comfortably take precautions that are necessary. But I think that, and that's just me, I think it's an individual choice and a responsibility that we all have to make as individuals. But at the same time, sports in and of itself is a healer. Think about how many people have poured themselves into the Jordan documentary. I know I have. I think a lot of other people have, solely because we're just looking for something that brings back some joy of sport. And particularly in basketball this time of year, not having it has been difficult for a lot of different people. Having sports come back as it was in 9/1, right after 9/11, as it was after other catastrophes that we've had in our country. I'm old enough to remember Army Navy playing after JFK was shot. and what an important deal that was. Sports has always been the consummate elixir for what ailed country. And I think it will be much more of that than we ever imagined this time around. But in order for it to be that, fellas, we got to make sure that we don't screw the pooch between now and the time toe meets pigskin. Mm-hmm. So we do have to be cautious, precautionary, measured, and I think respectful of others around us. And if we are, I think we'll be okay. That's my lecture for the day. I hope I didn't take too much of advantage of the bully pulpit you gave.
No, Tim, we appreciate you. Go ahead, Paul.
By the way, Tim was the first sportscaster that I ever met. I had this memory, but when I realized we were going to have you on the show, my mother was a teacher, and she was very against taking me out of school for any reason. You know, I mean, even if I was sick, like I could need a liver transplant, she'd be like, "Yeah, you'll be fine." And so, but you were emceeing I was 10 or 11 years old. It was the Independence Bowl. We were living in Bossier City. The Independence Bowl luncheon, and yes, yep. And Danny White was the speaker, and it was Maryland and Louisiana were playing in the game, and my dad took me out of school because we're big Cowboy fans and wanted to see Danny White, and then you were there, and I remember that vividly. And my mother was still, I guarantee you, when she hears this interview and hears this story at the end, she's still going to be steamed 30 plus years later that I left school to go to a luncheon.
Hey, well, that just shows you the differences. I've said this to people many times before. Maybe it was because my dad wasn't a teacher. My dad was a broadcaster, and he knew if the NLCS or the ALCS was being played in 1969 or 70, and I wanted to check out of school so I could listen to Lindsey Nelson or Kurt Gowdy and Tony Kubek call the ALCS or the NLCS. Hey, man, Timmy's going to get a stomach ache today. He's coming home at noon.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey,
nice. It all worked out either way, right? It all worked out.
Man, we can have some of those stories to share forever. Tim, thank you very much. Appreciate you jumping on with us. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Godspeed to everyone, and let's hope that we make our way down there to McLean Stadium for a ball game this year. I sure hope so.
I do too. That's Tim Brando, Fox Sports, Louisiana, as he said, native, and been a part of broadcasting for quite some time. His father was in TV. That's how he got started, and now a part of Fox Sports. Was a part of CBS for many, many years, and now does quite a bit. In fact, almost everything with either Raycom or Fox Sports. 4:26 is the time.
He was a last basketball game of the year. He was calling that game. Right. And when I was in Kansas City, and we were, I mean, as you guys know, I was already very unsure, uneasy about the trip as it was, because that's when COVID was really starting. It was still kind of under the radar, not for me, but for a lot of people. And that was the infamous less than 30-hour trip in Kansas City stay that we had, the one-night stay there. But, yeah, I remember waking up that next day, that first real day that we were there to get ready to go do a show, and then we were going to have to turn around and go do the Baylor men's game later that night. But you could just tell, because the night before, the Rudy Gobert story had come out, and all of it started to feel really different. So we get up the next day, and, shoot, as we're waiting to go on air, I mean, Tim Brando's calling a Big East basketball game. And even as we started the show, the Big East basketball game's still going on. And they get all the way to halftime. And I remember just thinking, like, are they really going to keep playing? And, he's gone out on the record since then and talked about how it was kind of uncomfortable because he felt like we really shouldn't be doing this right now, but we are, and I have a job to do. And so he had to kind of call the game, but wasn't all that confident in what was going on. But, yeah, he's a little piece of history there because he was part of that broadcast.
Yeah, that's that had to be kind of almost. It was eerie. It was eerie. Mm-hmm. We were at the time the radio station, and we're sitting there. You guys were obviously about to start, and we're like figuring out what are we going to have? What are we going to do?
We were actually going back and forth. They're just ping ponging. Okay, how do we get them home? Can we get them home tonight? Probably not. How early tomorrow can we get them on a plane? And that's what we did.
All right,
it was crazy.
When we come back, Terrance Williams, All-American at Baylor, made the catch that changed the face of Baylor facilities forever with the football stadium. Caught, in fact, it had a lot to do with RG3 and the Heisman Trophy. Had a very successful career with the Cowboys, and then all of a sudden, man, things started going south. What's he doing now? Terrance Williams, former Baylor and Cowboys wide receiver, next on SicEm365 Radio.
I went through the drive-thru at Riverbend Liquor and Wine on Saturday night and got myself a bottle of Balcones Rumble, as a matter of fact, and some Grey Goose. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, easy to access. It's so great. You just drive, tell them what you need, and they give it to you. And if you want to go in the store, it's clean, it's brilliant, beautiful. They take every kind of precaution. They're at the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. They have a great selection of craft beers in that walk-in fridge. Unbelievable. The absolute best you can possibly think of. And whatever you need, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco, Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
This is Waco, and this is Boozer's Jewelers. When locals want luxurious jewelry and at a competitive price, they come here. This is Brad Boozer. He's the owner of Boozer's Jewelers. Boozer's is the premier wedding ring store. They specialize in loose diamonds and wedding rings. At Boozer's, they have 7 jewelry counters dedicated to wedding rings and diamonds only. They also specialize in heirloom jewelry, custom jewelry, watches, and much, much more. So what are you waiting for? Stop on in today and discover why the locals trust Boozer's for their jewelry.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas. Our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. In today's world, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. We even offer financing. Everything's included in the price, and more importantly, you'll not get a bill in the mail later on. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule an appointment safely from home, online in minutes at idealmri.com, or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI. And please remember to follow CDC guidelines and practice social distancing. Stay home, except for the essentials, and be safe, and together we'll get through this at idealmri.com.
Texas Board Certified Personal Injury Trial Lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. And what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
Hi, this is Gerald High School football coach Amos Davidson, and I'm a proud listener and supporter of the all-new SicEm365 radio show with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
Empty backfield for Griffin. He has time, launches it to the end zone. Touchdown! Terrance Williams!
This segment on Baylor Athletics on SicEm365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, located at the Imperial Drive exit off Loop 340 in Waco. Proud supporters of all Baylor Athletics.
All right, here we go. This 4 o'clock hour, thanks to Tim Brando, thanks to former Baylor wide receiver Melvin Bonner, thanks to Baylor athletic performance coach Corey Campbell. We're now joined by former Baylor All-American, Cowboys wide receiver Terrance Williams on SicEm365 Radio. How are you doing, young man?
Hey, boss, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
We're doing great. Paul Catalina, who you know, you saw him many times in Frisco. He's here with me. Craig Smoke, who also was a part of covering you as well, is with us. Deontay is here with us as well. So do you understand the catch against Oklahoma that not only won the game, built McLean Stadium, and might have given Robert Griffin III the Heisman Trophy?
At the time, I really didn't pay too much attention to it because, the game. It was a pay game. And I remember this play specifically because on the sideline, I think the quarter before, I dropped the touchdown to tie the game up. And I'm just like, mad, I'm down on myself. Talking back to myself on the sideline, and Kenneth comes over to me, and he just said, man, pick your head up, that you're going to make a play at some point in the game. And I truly just trusted that, and crazy enough, the last play, it came to me. But thinking back on it, I really wasn't paying attention to it then, but like now, paying back attention to it, I mean, like it was really, really big.
Do you know that one of the guys that helped really almost not, I guess in a way, Paul, who was it, Brian Nicholson? Mm-hmm. He said that he was sitting there watching the game and his phone, as soon as you made the catch, completely blew up with a lot of people who were a part of Baylor, and it said, we have to build a new stadium.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
That
is crazy.
So one of my favorite parts about that game, Terrance, and I'm always curious to hear it from the perspective of the players in it, is you guys seemed, which was not like Art Briles, that, okay, look, it's a tie game, we're just going to take this thing to overtime. Like, just go to overtime and run it out. And then Bob Stoops called a timeout, and that seemed to shift everything on that last drive. Did that just kind of tick you guys off, that you said, hey, we're going to go to overtime here, and this dude's taking timeouts, let's just go do this?
That's the thing about playing for Coach Browse, man. He trusts the players. He trusts the system. That particular time, they did call a timeout, and then Griffin coach, they started talking, and Coach Browse just started trusting us, and he just said, you know what? The game's already tied, so we have nothing more to lose. So he gave us plays, and so he just let us just do the work, and it came out to the favor of the players because he really trusted us so much, and that's the great thing that we always love playing for him, because when games get close and tight, he's the type of coach not to shy away from. He loves the big moments, and it showed.
Terrance, as Smokey and Paul both said, I mean, you were on the receiving end of Robert's Heisman moment. Just to be a player on that team and be such a big contributor, to see a guy go through the sort of Heisman campaign and the ebbs and flows of it, and to see the type of year Robert had and firsthand, what was that experience like?
Oh, man, it was like a huge transformation, because when we first came in, a grip came for us, so it was kind of crazy at the moment I came, because we really didn't talk as much. But then as soon as we started to get a little bit closer and closer, because we stayed in the same apartment complex, we just got closer and closer. You really just seen him just transform into a straight up killer. And game by game, people just seen it. And Griff's the type of person not to do a lot of talking. He just loves to put his head down and keep working day by day. And when game times comes, Griff always shines, and so that's what he always did. And so to finally see Griff put together complete games against big-time schools, against teams that people thought that we wouldn't win, and to put up the numbers that he did, that showed what type of quarterback he was.
You had a chance with the XFL with St. Louis, and of course that thing evaporated. The COVID-19 kind of led to what would look like a league that had all the money in the world. And we had Cyril Richardson on the day that it was announced the league was going to shut down. How was that for you, Terrance? Because I know you're trying to get yourself back into football. What was that day like for you?
That was a great experience, that was just something, that I felt like, that I needed to do because I broke my foot last year, and it was kind of like the first surgery that I had, and so sometimes my foot like really, really bothered me, and I really didn't know how to control it, and so I had to take some time off, and then when I just started just working out, I figured that would be a good jump start to see how my foot doing and where where my training has got me.
So how good a shape are you in right now? Are you ready to go if called upon?
Yeah, that's something that I work out with this real cool guy named Coach Bird in Dallas. We work out 3 times a week, and he really guy that gets my footwork back right and take me back to the fundamentals. So it's something that I'm continually just working on, and it's something like not like a process that you can just say, okay, next week I'm gonna be fine. It's something that I'm just taking day in and day out, finding something to get better at, and that's what I'm doing. I feel like now, like I have no pressure on my shoulders. I have nothing and so now I'm really just back to myself because I have nothing really bothering my mind and a shift in focus. So I'm straight.
Terrance, did you watch much of Baylor last year? And obviously just a week and a half or so ago, Denzel Mims became the latest Baylor wide receiver to the pros, a second-round pick to the New York Jets. I was just curious how much you had really seen of him and just your thoughts on, more Baylor players getting an opportunity at the next level.
That's really, really cool, too. He's a straight-up baller. I've seen him, I think the first time I seen him was when they played OU at the Cowboy Stadium, and I seen what type of person that he was, and I was like, oh, wow, this is what the hype is about. He's really a big, tall, explosive guy, and Coach Will came in there, and he turned that spread style into a pro style, and so somebody like that's that big and that fast, he flourished in it, and I can't forget to mention that the jerseys that they have too is seriously amazing. From the solid yellows to the back to the traditional uniform, back to the throwback there. That's really, really cool, and so they're doing a lot of good things out there.
So you like the new uniforms?
Yeah, a lot.
So you'd rock that all yellow?
A lot.
Yeah.
I wish I had to back at that. A lot. Yellow is sick.
Terrance, I think I've seen you wear a suit that color.
Yeah.
That's amazing because when they unveiled those uniforms, you know how fan bases can be. Some just they like it, and it's and then some just don't like it. And here's a guy that played for a lot of helmets and uniforms, and you love that yellow, which really kind of became, I don't know if that was their base uniform in the end, but did the uniforms or the chrome or anything like that ever influence you making the decision to go to Baylor?
Man, Smoke, we came there when it was back to the traditional stuff. And so when we slowly started winning, and we finally got the change in the jerseys and stuff. Player-wise, that's what gives the players juice and swag.
Yep.
Knowing that you have so many so many jerseys to pick. It's just like you go into a closet and picking out clothes to wear. Like look that you're going out in front of the world of putting on your best uniforms. And so now they are in the conversation to have the best jerseys from the whole league.
Hey. Terrance Williams, former Baylor All-American, Cowboys wide receiver, with us right now on SicEm365 Radio.
By the way, I just wanted to say, for the SicEm365 community listening, I'll take Terrance's opinion on the uniforms over all you guys. I'm just saying.
I was going to say that because, Terrance, you are, fashion-wise, you're at that peak. I've seen you post-game Cowboys locker room. You rocking some good stuff. Your suit game is next level, isn't it?
Yes, sir. That's something that I really, really take a lot of pride in. It's something that growing up, that we didn't have clothes like that. So now that God blessed me with a chance to do that, I feel like that I have to come out the house wearing my best stuff, and that's not to like flex or nothing. That's just me showing like how grateful that I am to be in the situation that I am. And so that's how I basically pick my clothes on, depending on how the day is when I wake up.
So Terrance, we've had a lot of former players on since we launched this show a few weeks ago, and one of the topics we had early on was what game would you go back and rewatch. So I've made sure to ask pretty much everybody we've had on for their opinion. Now, I would think the OU game would be right there at the top of your list. If it is, then what's an alternative? What's a game that you played in that you would love or would be your first choice to go back and rewatch, if not that Oklahoma game? Still got him? We lost him?
He's there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we
lost
hear you now.
for a
Sorry
second.
about that.
Okay, go ahead.
I would say back when K-State was number one. I think that game would probably be something I go back and watch, because I think that we was supposed to lose that game, and it was just one of those nights that you could tell just by how cold it was that something crazy was going to happen. And it turned out, that was like one of the greatest games that we could be like a part of, because of just the simple fact of we taken down a number one team. And so we had a chance to spoil their whole thing. And so that was really, really cool.
Terrance, I know you got to go eventually, but we know what you are as who you are as a person. We covered you at Baylor. We saw your career. We saw how you developed. We saw what you did with the Cowboys, and we know that a couple of years ago was a very difficult year for you. Are you okay? Yeah. Are you doing okay? And what is it like to find out truly who is inside your inner circle when things don't go well?
That's something that I have to that I had to go through, but it was nothing too crazy. Just more mentally for me. I felt like I haven't gotten in trouble before, and so for something like that to happen, and then I just feel like a lot of people, that I looked out for a long period of time, just decided just to turn their backs on me. So it's just something that you just live and learn, and that's something that I had to really, really deal with, because Smoke, that like I'm a person, like I don't really talk too much to people, and so like when I finally like let myself like to allow myself to like fully trust you, and I felt like I was backstabbed, and so it was just something that I had to just grow up from, and so there's nothing from that situation that didn't help me out now, because now like I'm just like I told you before, like I'm back focused on what I have to do. I'm back focused on the things that makes me the person that I am. I finally have a chance to just sit back and reflect and just think about how many things and how many people that I let affect my life. And so now, it's back to square one. Like, I still hang out with Kendall Wright daily. That's still my dog. And so I just hang out with him, and I'm just back to my basic self, man. And it low-key feels good because now, like, I don't have to worry about, like, crazy numbers calling me, people begging for stuff. So now, like, I'm just back to square one, and that's something that I can just get better. And I really thank God for the situation that I am in now, because now, like, I have a chance to really catch myself before things got too bad. And so I felt like when things get taken away from me, that's just a sign of me not taking advantage of the situation that God blessed me with. And so when that stuff got taken away from me, that really just made me just lock in now. Like, this is a real life. And so that helped me out tremendously well.
If you live long enough, you're going to go through things. All of us will. And if you haven't, you just haven't lived long enough, because we appreciate you being honest. And also, we knew you'd be honest about it, but also kind of giving us some insight. Is there a concern on your part that your football clock is ticking and you need to be in a camp sometime this summer, if in fact there's camp?
No, there's no clock ticking for me. Just like I told you before, like, I'm in a good shape, and really, besides my foot, like, I really haven't had surgery. So on the bright side of that, I've only had one surgery my whole football career. So that's something that I really grateful for, stuff like that. And just like I told you before, like, this is like a process to where, like, I'm not looking to like rush and come back, because if I'm not myself, I'm not going to put a bad product out for myself, because I have too much self-pride to just go out there and say, hey, boom, I'm back, I'm trying. No, because then to me, I feel like if I don't go out there and give it my all and I'm not thinking about nothing, then that's going to propel me to be myself. And I feel like I just got to just go through this one day at a time, and the perfect time and the perfect situation that will happen. So I'm just being patient, just thanking God for the things that I do have, and the people that I do have in my life, and just continue just to keep working. That's the only thing that I can do. And so I'm not too much of a complainer, too much of a beggar. So this is the best way that I know how to do it, is just when nobody's watching, to just go out there day in and day out and just prove people wrong. Well, not just talking, but just going to go do it.
We are right there with you, man. And I had one more thing on the catch against Oklahoma, if you don't mind. This is on the Willis Law Firm room. Yeah. A guy from Edmund Bear, that's his number, that's his message board name. His wife is from Oklahoma City or in that area, and that she is a big Baylor fan, and she couldn't stand the fact that Baylor had never beaten Oklahoma. I think it's like 0-20, and they were having a watch party right there in the smack of Oklahoma country, right? And you make that catch, and I guess, I don't know if it was Baylor or Oklahoma or both fans. There's like 40 people in this watch party. You make that catch. She falls to her knees, raises her hands in the air, and starts bawling.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. I don't think she was the only one either. I don't think she was the only one that did that after he made that catch.
That gave me goosebumps just thinking about the emotions of what a moment not only meant to you and the team and RG3 and the coaching staff, whatever, but to some people that thought they would never maybe see that moment, and there you were in the middle of it and making that catch. Terrance, man, we appreciate your time. I'm so happy that you got back with me. Thank you for being a part of the show, sharing your story, and we wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you so much, boss, for having me, man. Look, you know it's all love over here, Smoke.
Thank you very much. That's Terrance Williams, former Baylor All-American wide receiver, Cowboys wide receiver, free agent right now, and as you hear, every day he goes day by day.
Well, he sounds really good. He sounds like he's in a really positive spot mentally. out with Kendall Wright, and just seems to have more of a grip on things maybe than he did previously. And you know what? Like, that's happened to me plenty of times. It's happened to everybody. And you have a setback and you can make it a comeback. And that sounds like what Terrance is trying to do, whether that be in pro football or that be just in life in general. And at this point, it really needs to be more of an emphasis on just life in general, which is what it sounds like, and that's great.
Whatever he does post-football, though, I'll tell you, when he decides what that's going to be, he's going to throw himself whole, all into it. People didn't realize this about him because he is so quiet.
Yeah, he's very quiet, which I can relate to.
But passionate.
Yeah, and which I can relate to that. I can relate to how quiet people are misdiagnosed quite often, actually. But for Terrance, I was not here for his playing career. I arrived right after, basically, he went to the pros. And even then, not having seen him at Baylor, but seeing him at Cowboys training camp, and he usually always gave us an interview there. He's just a really good dude. He's a really cool dude. He is quiet, but you get past that, and there's nothing to not like about the guy. And I'm really glad to hear that he's in a good place, and he's staying positive and just and waiting on the next big passion in life, whatever that may be, football or otherwise. And you know what? We did not bring up the all-decade team with him. He got second team behind Denzel. He may have taken his nice words about Denzel back if he had learned that. But he's definitely in that conversation for best Baylor receivers of all time, just overall. And what a catch! I mean, what a moment that was. But I do like asking that question about what's the game you would rewatch, because it's just interesting to hear the different perspectives. Now, I think we all basically fall into like the same 3 or 4 games, but it's still different. And for him, that K-State, and funnily enough, before I ever moved to Waco, that was a game I randomly came to because you were working here, and my sister and I just, hey, you got tickets to this K-State game. They're number 1 team in the country. And at that point, I'm not really into anything, So, okay, I'll come watch a game. And little did I know what that would turn out to be. With the biggest win in Baylor history at that time. And that was a cool scene to be a part of.
Yeah, and that was a game that was known for the goal line stand.
Yeah.
Because of Klein, the quarterback, the Heisman Trophy candidate. And right at the time, I think he was probably on his way to winning the Heisman Trophy.
Those were both 2 no-way moments with me when I remember the goal line stand with Colin Klein. I thought, well, I mean, there's no way that he's not going to score.
It's
I mean,
the Baylor defense.
It's what he does.
Yeah.
This just what he does, and it had nothing to really do with them. It was just,
but you
the
combine
guy's
that,
6'5", big quarterback. He's a tight end playing quarterback, running the option. He's going to do that. They're in the spot where they wanted to be. And then Terrance's catch, I can tell you, I was doing the internal PA at that time, and might have still been doing it during Colin Klein. I can't remember, but I remember turning Richard was on the stat crew with me, and Robert threw that pass, and I saw Terrance flash like he was going to be open. I mean, he got away from the receiver, and I just started going, no way. He caught it. Everybody goes crazy. And Richard and I looked at each other going, I don't know. How did that just happen?
Yeah.
How did that just happen?
When we come back, Don Shula today died at the age of 90. Man, you think about Marino, you think about Greasy, you think about the unbeaten season, the Colts. He played with the Cleveland Browns, played with Baltimore, the team he eventually would coach. He played a year with the Redskins. Just an unbelievable career, and an entrepreneur as well. He passed away at the age of 90. And Nat Moore, former Dolphins wide receiver. You try to take a national story and it's not so much localize it, but have it where you can hear somebody that knew Don Shula, and that's next on SicEm365 Radio. Ideal MRI. Al LeBlanc called me yesterday. He actually called me on Friday, one of the partners for Ideal MRI. So he called me and he said, hey, we want you to go through the process of what we have with their location in the Central Texas marketplace. And then Dr. Rob Maxey, who's the one that reached out to me when we announced that we were going to do a radio show, SicEm365 Radio, he reached out to me and we spoke, and I can't tell you, man, he gets it. They get it. They're trying to lower the cost of health care. You can get MRIs now for thousands of dollars less than you elsewhere, and you get that at Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace, idealmri.com online. So Al LeBlanc reaches out to me and he said, David, Dr. Max, we want to do it. We want to take you through the MRI. And I've had MRIs before. And I said, okay, let me do that. And then Al LeBlanc, here they're trying to do me a favor, and they're the ones telling me, you pick a day. So tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, I'm going to have an MRI on my left shoulder, and then kind of experience what they do, and then also help share more about what they do, which is helping you save thousands of dollars, whether you're using insurance or not. And you can even ask your doctor about Ideal MRI, and they'll let you know, yes, they have all that what you need when it comes to technology, and the specialist as well. So I'm going to experience that tomorrow, my left shoulder, and then pass it along to you. And if you have something that you need an MRI, don't forget to ask your doctor about MRI. The state-of-the-art technology and specialist, idealmri.com, idealmri.com. Dr. Kent Petty wants you to be the highest performance man you want to be. Are you sluggish, lack energy? Do you suffer from low sex drive? Petty Clinic Low T offers discounted comprehensive lab work to check on your various levels that can make a difference. It's not only time for you to be the man you want to be with higher energy and stamina and improved sex drive, but also the healthiest and high performance man. Screening for cardiac heart disease risk, EKG, cholesterol panel, blood pressure monitoring, testosterone or growth hormone deficiency, male infertility, hepatitis C, and prostate cancer screening. Petty Clinic Low T offers replacement therapy for testosterone or growth hormones, weight management therapy, and nutritional advice. It's not only time for you to be the man you want to be with higher energy, stamina, and improved sex drive, but the healthiest and highest performance man. PettyClinicLowT.com, PettyClinicLowT.com on Old Hewitt Road, just off Highway 84 in Woodland. PettyClinicLowT.com.
Hi, this is Charlie Roten, head football coach at Rogers High School, and you're listening to SicEm365 Radio with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
We are facing some unique challenges at this time. We want to do our part to support not only our community, but our medical providers who are really overtasked right now. Governor Greg Abbott has required dental offices to postpone all elective dental procedures, but still be available for dental emergencies. At this time, dental emergencies are those that are defined as something that would make somebody consider going to the emergency room for treatment. We're offering to see you at our office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to noon, and we will waive all fees. We're doing this to support the community and support the medical system. This will allow the overtasked medical community to focus on the truly needy at this time. In the midst of what seems to be so much gloomy news, we want to send a positive signal of our faith in our community and in each other. We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're 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 all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together. Thank you and God bless.
Texas Board Certified Personal Injury Trial Lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like these, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illness and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI. And please, remember to follow CDC guidelines and practice social distancing. Stay home, except for the essentials, and be safe. Together, we'll get through this.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
Third down, goal to go. The ball back at the 18-yard line. Jensen is into the offensive set. It is there. Touchdown, Miami. Nate Moore.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
He was an All-American at the University of Florida. He also was a favorite target. Bob Greasy, Miami Dolphins quarterback, of course, one of the great quarterbacks ever in Dan Marino. Nat Moore played his entire career in the NFL with the Dolphins from 1974 to 1986. He's the senior vice president, special projects, alumni relations, and advisor to the CEO. And Nat Moore joins us on SicEm365 Radio. Nat, thank you so much. We appreciate you for being a part of the show on a very obviously sad day, but a day when we can remember the legacy of the great Don Shula. What's it like right now for the Dolphins franchise and family?
Strange. It's a very sad day, not just for the Dolphins franchise and family, but for the whole South Florida community and NFL fans across America. Coach was more than just a football coach. He was an icon in this South Florida community that brought a lot of tenacity to not only sports itself, but also a way of life here in South Florida. I mean, he was the epitome of, rallying people together to make sure that we were the best at what we did.
He, all-time winningest coach. He was the only coach that you played for. Could you have even imagined in the pros playing for a different coach than Don Shula?
I think there were some coaches out there that everybody raves about. I mean, Bill Walsh was coming along at the same time, and he was Coach Shula's rivalry. Chuck Noll. I mean, you name it. There were some great coaches back during that era. But Coach Shula was one that stood out, and his record speaks for itself. And I think a lot of times, you talk about coaches, you talk about quarterbacks, but sometimes you forget to talk about the ability of a coach to assess the talent that he has on his team and adapt his philosophy and strategy to that. And I think that's where Coach Shula was one of the best.
We had Tim Brando on, renowned broadcaster who had quite a few meetings with Coach Shula and interactions with him, and he said that he was always so cordial, businesslike but cordial, and he said that no matter who you were within the franchise, whether you were a player or you were somebody that was working the concessions, that he was a guy that would treat you with great respect. Can you take us just kind of into the personality of Coach Shula, your thoughts on those comments from Brando and just the type of person that he was?
Well, I think Brando is perfect. I mean, Coach Shula was a guy of integrity. He was a guy that did things the right way. He actually walked the walk. He didn't just talk the talk. He was a guy that he led by example. We have so many athletes that come here, that play here, that never leave here because he helped you get involved in the community. He helped you make new relationships outside of football so that when your career is over with, it's much easier to go into the real world, get into business, have some friends to help you develop whatever your skill set is continually. And then you take the life lessons of hard work, perseverance, stick-to-itness, never giving up. And all of a sudden you'd be surprised how successful you are life after football because of those teachings that you received from him.
One of the things that you could know about a guy who owns a record, last year was 95, so we're talking about 25 years ago, and he's still the all-time wins leader among NFL coaches. George Halas second, Bill Belichick, who's moving up the ladder at 273 right now. Do you have a favorite personal note with Don Shula, perhaps when you were a rookie out of Florida, or a moment later in your career that might be, I know you have probably dozens, but any one particular note in particular?
Well, the one thing that I'm most known for, I guess, is the helicopter.
Yeah.
And, Coach Shula had a way of motivating you where, you didn't make the same mistake over and over again. Matter of fact, very seldom did you get a chance to make the same mistake twice and get away with it. And we're playing the Jets up there in the Meadowlands, and I catch a ball going through the middle. Marino hits me at perfect stride, and I get hit, and on the way down, my elbow hits the ground, the ball pops out. Darryl Ray picks it up and runs it back about 40 yards, and I go to the sideline, and Coach Shula decided to tell me how he really felt about me in the football and how bad it was, and the fact that we'd have been better off if I didn't catch the ball, because at least I could have punted it. They could have punted it away, and we'd have had better field position. And it sort of stuck with me. And the next series, we run the same play. We catch the same perfect coverage, and Marino hits me again, and I got a chance to maybe go over Ken Troy and get in the end zone and show Shula just who I am. And I'm halfway over his shoulder, and Ken Troy hits my shoulder, and then Kurt Springs hits me, and now I'm spinning like a top. And just to show you life lessons, the whole time I'm spinning, I'm not thinking about landing. I'm not thinking about scoring. I'm thinking about whatever I do, don't let that damn football go.
Wow. Yeah. The helicopter, Elway had one of those in a Super Bowl where it finally broke through against the Packers. But other than that, the one I always remember, just because I'm 61, so I do remember that, was the one you had against the Jets. Absolutely.
That was the one in the Meadowlands, yeah. But like I say, Coach Shula was one of those guys that he drove you hard. But when the game was over, he was the first one to come by your locker, pat you on the back, and say, hey, I know it was tough. Way to hang in there. He had the ability to not let you quit on yourself or your teammates. And I respect him for that, because in life, the more you quit, the easier it gets. And he had a way of not letting you get stuck in that habit.
You came, and correct me if I'm wrong here, when they had just won back-to-back Super Bowls, correct? That was your rookie year, right? Or is
my rookie year was 74. They had been to 3 straight Super Bowls. They won back-to-back Super Bowls. I'm a Miamian by nature. I grew up here in Miami, and I'm getting to come home to play with the Super Bowl champions. So a kid in a candy store.
But that standard was already there. Is that even harder for a rookie to step into a situation like that, where you're 3 Super Bowls in a row? They expect this certain level.
No, because the best part about that is you're coming to a team. Forget great players. You're coming to a team that they understand what it takes to get there. They understand the fact that you have to give a little of yourself. And in the process, it was the best situation I could ever walk into, because each and every one of those guys were helping me learn. It wasn't just the coaches. We only had 7 coaches back in those days, counting Shula, not 27 like we do today. And it was up to the players to help get you ready. And I spent 1 year with Paul Warfield, 1 year. And I learned so much about not just how to be a great football player, but how to be an NFL, how to be a professional, how to carry yourself. And that the game wasn't just about you. And that carried me the next 12 years, and it sort of made me who I am, where as new players came in, we passed that on. And that's why we were able to stay in the forefront of the NFL for so long.
In fact, Don Shula, there were his years with the Colts and Dolphins. He coached 15 players, Nat, that have a gold jacket for being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
And that sounds about right, and it probably should be even more when you think about Bob Kuechenberg's not in the Hall of Fame, Mark Clayton's not in the Hall of Fame, Mark Duper's not in the Hall of Fame, Richmond Webb. I mean, there's so many other guys that could have been selected to the Hall of Fame, and it just didn't happen. But the difference is even the Hall of Famers all had to give a little of themselves for the overall good of the team, and that's why we won so much back in the Don Shula days.
Nat, you've been named Man of the Year in 1984 by the NFL. You've won the Byron White Humanitarian Award a couple years later. So you get it, and not just what you got because of how to be an NFL player with Paul Warfield, who was one of the smoothest wide receivers of all time, but you get it for what you do off the field as well. Where did that come from early on in your life?
Don Shula. Like I say, he was a guy that, like I said, he led by his example. If you remember back in the old days, the NFL had a partnership with the United Way. Mm-hmm. And part of that partnership was they were allowed to come in and pitch the players to donate to the United Way to help a lot of the youth agencies and et cetera that so many of us had come through. And at that time, Don Shula would be the first guy to stand up and write a check. Don Shula would be the first guy that would tell you about what's going on in the community and how these folks need help. So, because of his lead, a lot of us sort of took on that same ambiance and that same nature. And when you look at South Florida, how many of us remain here, stayed here, because we built our lives here and became such an intricate part of the South Florida community. When you think of Don Shula, everybody thinks of the 347 wins and the great football coach. I look at him as what he meant to South Florida and how he changed the scheme of what was happening here in South Florida. I mean, when you talk about sports, it's the Miami Dolphins. When you talk about what brought professional sports here, it was Joe Robbie and then Don Shula coming in and putting a face on the Miami Dolphins in the NFL.
Nat, you mentioned the 7 assistant coaches that you guys had. You and I overlap a little bit in that, granted, I was in the NFL, but my high school coach was Jim Scarry, whose father was Mike Scarry, was the defensive line coach for you guys in the 70s. Coach Mo, we called him. And one of my favorite things to do when we weren't practicing and he wasn't yelling at us for not staying under the pads was get stories about Paul Brown or Don Shula, and he had a million of them, and almost everyone about Don Shula would just floor you with how professional he was. Do you guys still get around and share stories like that about the coaches?
Yeah, I mean, we still get together, and what my job is and what I try and do is, try and bring the different eras together more so than not, so that, we can all learn from each other. We went through different eras, different coaches, but by the same token, the principles stay the same. Success is all about work ethic. It's all about being able to go out and persevere through the tough times. And a lot of times when we do our Zoom calls, we've got guys from every era on that, and we're just busting chops and having fun. And like you say, telling stories about how it was when we played. And what's really interesting is to have the old guys tell the young guys that they're too soft. They couldn't play back when we played. And then to have the young guys tell them that they're too old and slow, that they couldn't play in today's athletic realm of athletes. So, it's all fun, and it's back to the locker room. I mean, we've been very blessed to have one of the most outgoing and aggressive alumni bases where we do a lot together. I mean, every ball game, compliments of the Miami Dolphins, started back with Joe Robbie and now with Steve Ross. We have at least 30 to 40 NFL former Dolphin players in a suite that's provided by the organization.
One more thing. You guys now, with Brian Flores, it appears as if the Dolphins are getting themselves back in a position to compete. And, of course, the Patriots, who knows what's happening with them now that Tom Brady is in the state of Florida in Tampa. But you drafted Tua. You've got Fitzpatrick, who just continues to amaze at times, and Rosen and Xavier Howard played at Baylor. We covered Baylor quite a bit. The very good Pro Bowl cornerback as well. Is there a sense of excitement about what's happening with the Dolphins right now?
Yeah, you're talking about, a belief. We believe in Brian Flores. We believe in Chris Greer. We love the way that they're building this program together. They're getting guys that like each other, that will play for each other. Not a bunch of me guys, but a bunch of we guys. And what we really love is how they have done exactly what Don Shula did way back in 1970 when he came here. He developed that offensive line that allowed Bob Greasy and Laka to become the stalwarts that they were. Think about it. On that team, you had two Hall of Famers, Jim Langer and Larry Little on the offensive line. Bob Kuchenberg should have been in the Hall of Famer. And they took 3 offensive linemen in this draft. They also signed 2 offensive linemen in free agency. They're building the interior of the offense, and the same thing on the defense, of the defensive line, where we're going to be able to compete against other teams where, the quarterback has got time to throw the football. The running back has holes to run through. And by the same token, we can now stay on the field on 3rd down and 1 because we've got 2 backs that potentially can get us that difficult yard. And then on defense, we can get off the field on third down. The football is very, very simple. You want to get to the fourth quarter with a chance to win. And a lot of times when you can keep your offense on the field and your defense on the field, you go in the fourth quarter a lot stronger than you do when your defense is playing, 40 minutes a game.
Nat, thank you so much for being a part of the show today to talk about the legacy of a great man in Don Shula, but also a little bit about the Dolphins and just life. And you're 75? 74 career touchdowns. Yeah.
70. Oh, yeah. I thought you was calling me 75.
No.
I think I had 75 career touchdowns, 74 receiving, 1 running.
Yep, 510 catches in your career. Thanks for your time. We appreciate you being a part of the show today.
Well, thank you guys for at least getting the knowledge and et cetera about Coach Shula and his legacy. He retired quite a few years ago, so a lot of people have forgotten who he was and what he did. But even a day like today, it's more about his legacy as a man and what he meant not only to football and the NFL and Miami Dolphins, but what he meant to the community and young men as a whole.
Thank you. Nat Moore, Senior Vice President, Special Project, Alumni Relations, Advisor to the CEO, former Dolphins, all 13 of his years in the NFL out of the University of Florida with the Miami Dolphins. Don Shula he was a part of a 15-player trade, played for Paul Brown, coached with Unitas and Marino, of course, all-time winningest coach, 2 Super Bowl wins plus an NFL championship, 5 great-grandsons, 5 children, 16 grandkids, and 15 players he coached are in pro football's Hall.
Unitas, Greasy, and Marino.
Yeah, Greasy and Marino.
Yeah, and so and if you're Nat Moore and your 2 quarterbacks are Bob Greasy and Dan Marino for the chunk of your career.
You won the lottery.
Yeah.
5:19 is the time. Craig today, along with Ashley Hodge, is a true or false in the premium section. We're going to tell you a little bit about what that's about today. Also, did you watch the last 2 episodes of The Last Dance last night? Greatness. That and more. SicEm365, the River Liquor and Wine text line's available. Leon's been on it a couple of times again today. 254-339-1122, 254-339-1122. And the Willis Law Firm chat room continues on SicEm365.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one, commercial, farm and ranch, or residential. Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction with a team of 24 experienced agents who are excited about serving you. Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Waco, Texas, a place with its own unique history and a future bright with promise. Full of remarkable growth and opportunity, and what makes it all work is its people, families, raising children, growing businesses. Wacoans are hardworking with a passion for what's next, and we're proud to be from here, helping Waco to grow and prosper. We are the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
In this day and age, you must be able to change how you do business. Think outside the box to ensure that you service your customers. And at Waco Custom Marketplace, we've created our own drive-thru for your Monday, Wednesday, and Friday shopping, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you can still order and enjoy from our great butcher shop and bakery, including 2 pounds of 8-ounce salmon fillets for $24.05, 2 pounds of 4-ounce catfish fillets for $4.90, sliced ham or turkey, American cheese and smoked sausage, fresh chicken breasts, 3.5-pound whole chickens, sliced bacon, boneless pork chops, 80/20 ground beef, 4 pieces of sirloin steak or 4 pieces of ribeye steak from $19 to $35, marinated beef or chicken fajita meat, plus of bread, fresh carrots and Idaho or red bean potatoes or white onions, pinto beans and white rice, flour tortillas. So the great product, customer service, and tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace with a drive-thru only Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Acre Drive in Waco.
Clock Hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, the wedding ring, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, with Crown Royal Peach in stock right now and Balcones Whiskey, including single malt, hot still, baby blue, French oak, rye, and Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive at 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support our community through this crisis. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at IdealMRI.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Hi, this is Steve Huff, head football coach, College Station High School, and you're listening to SicEm365 Radio with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
Here we go on this Monday, May the 4th, 2020. So the Last Dance, with the story about the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan, got a little deep last night. Episodes 5 and 6, I believe. Got pretty deep. Started showing more and more things about Jordan and some of the background of him, just, even reporters or one-on-ones with 60 Minutes or whoever, do you have a gambling problem? He said, I have a competition problem.
Well, that's true. I mean, when you saw the game he was playing, throwing quarters against the wall,
with some guy that's just a part of security.
With the security guy, and then when he lost, he got pissed. Protect the United Center. Go secure that.
That guy had a fun little celebration dance as well. It was a funny looking
that
guy.
Became a meme. When he said one of it was a meme of Jerry Jones and that little look or whatever it was when CeeDee Lamb drops in your lap.
Yeah.
So, what was your favorite part about any of episodes 5 and 6?
I have not watched yet. I know that there was part of Kobe and sort of the with Jordan shown that's gotten a lot of attention with his passing earlier this year, and the relationship that those